Hello, greetings everyone. I really have been thinking about Ezekiel 28 and I thought we could explore it together. The word of Yah came to me again, saying, Son of man, say to the prince of Tyre, thus says Yahweh. Now this is interesting. It says prince here. Let's see if that's actually what that word is. Okay, notice the word here is Nagid, which means a leader, ruler, or prince. Because Melech, we know, is the word for king. So this is not a king. This is interesting because one of the things that I'm exploring is if this has anything to do with Prince William. You know, we have King Charles, but I'm thinking this might have to do with Prince William. So for those of you who have watched a lot of my videos, there is a video in there about Tyre. And in there I go through Isaiah 23 that says, now it shall come to pass in that day. When it says in that day, it's talking about the latter days. That Tyre will be forgotten 70 years. So, okay, let me just keep going. According to the days of one king. At the end of 70 years, it will happen to Tyre as in the Song of the Harlot. So, Great Britain had King Elizabeth on the throne. She was on the throne for exactly 70 years. Prior to that, Great Britain was probably the ruling power of the earth. They had the largest merchant fleet, even past World War II, of any nation in the world. And then all of a sudden their power declined and they became, just a shadow of what they had been. And all of that happened during the reign of Queen Elizabeth, who reigned for 70 years. And then coming down here to verse 17, it says, And it shall be at the end of 70 years that Yahweh will deal with Tyre. She will return to her hire and commit fornication with all the kingdoms of the world on the face of the earth. So, notice this. She's going to obviously become a world power again. She will return to her hire and commit fornication with all the kingdoms of the world. So here in Ezekiel 28, we're going to start out by talking about a man who sets himself up and says he's a god. But then it's going to transition into talking about what is obviously Satan. So let's just look at this, and then I have something to say about it. Because your heart is lifted up and you say, I am a god. I sit in the seat of gods. In the midst of the seas, okay? An island that would certainly fit Great Britain. Yet you are a man and not a god, though you set your heart as the heart of a god. Look at this. This is interesting. Behold, you are wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that can be hidden. I'm sorry about that banner that keeps coming up. There is no secret that can be hidden from you. With your wisdom and your understanding, you have gained riches for yourself and gathered gold and silver into your treasuries. But your great wisdom in trade, you have by your great wisdom in trade, I am stumbling with my words a lot today. By your great wisdom in trade, you have increased your riches, and your heart is lifted up because of your riches. Now let's go on down. So this is the man. This is obviously a man, okay? Because he says he's a god, but he's not a god, and it calls him the Prince of Tyre. But then we come down here, and this is obviously a completely different entity that we're talking about now. Therefore, thus says the Lord God, because you have set your heart as the heart of a god, behold, therefore, I will bring strangers against you, the most terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of your wisdom and defile your splendor. They shall throw you down into the pit, and you shall die the death of the slain in the midst of the seas. Okay, moving on. Okay. Oh, no. So this is where I wanted to go down to. So it talks about the fact that he's going to be destroyed. Will you still say before him who slays you, I am a god? But you shall be a man and not a god. in the hand of him who slays you. You shall die the death of the uncircumcised by the hand of aliens, for I have spoken, says Yahweh. So then we come down here. Okay, no, this is what I was talking about. I'm sorry, I didn't know it was this far down. Moreover, the word of Yah came to me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation for the king of Tyre. Now, before it was the prince or the ruler of Tyre. And this makes me think of that verse that says that he will give his authority to the beast, right? Where is that? So this is the beast rising out of the sea in Revelation 13. Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising about of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth was the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him, this is what I was thinking about, his power, his throne, and great authority. Now back to Ezekiel, it says, Moreover, the word of Yah came to me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation for the king of Tyre, king now, not prince, and say to him, Thus says Yahweh, You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering, the sardius, topaz, and diamond, beryl, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and emerald with gold. The workmanship of your timbrels and pipes was prepared for you on the day you were created. So here's where we find out who this king of Tyre is. Who's behind the prince? Who has given the prince his power? You were the anointed cherub who covers. I established you. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked back and forth in the midst of fiery stones. This is Lucifer. This is Lucifer. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created till iniquity was found in you. By the abundance of your trading, see, and isn't this interesting? Lucifer from the beginning was involved in trade. You became filled with violence within, and you sinned. Therefore I cast you as a profane thing out of the mountain of God, and I destroyed you, O covering cherub, from the midst of the fiery stones. Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. I cast you to the ground. I laid you before kings, that they might gaze at you. You defiled your sanctuaries by the multitude of your iniquities, by the iniquity of your trading. Therefore, I think that at this point it's talking not just about Lucifer, but also about the man that is empowered by Lucifer, who is has the riches of the world in his hands because of his trading. Therefore, I brought fire from your midst, it devoured you, and I turned you to ashes upon the earth in the sight of all who saw you. All who knew you among the peoples were astonished at you. You have become a horror and shall be no more forever. Now, this is really interesting. So this is Tyre. Now, Tyre had a sister city anciently, and the sister city was Sidon. And I believe that in this context, this is talking about the United States, and I'm going to show you why. But isn't this interesting? Because there is obviously a special relationship between the United Kingdom and the United States. It has always been there since the day that this country was founded. So let's go ahead and continue. Then I say this country because I'm in the United States. Then the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face towards Sidon and prophesy against her. And of course, both of these are called hers. Nations and churches are called hers. Thus says Yahweh, Behold, I am against you, O Sidon. I will be glorified in your midst. This is interesting, because this statement of I will be glorified is in the scriptures in a number of places. So who's going to glorify him? Jacob and Israel will. So here's Psalms 22. Let's see. So I'm in verse 23. You who fear Yahweh, praise him. And you, descendants of Jacob, glorify him. And fear him, all you offspring of Israel. Over here, call upon me. I'm in Psalm 50:15. Call upon me in the day of trouble. Whose trouble? The day of Jacob's trouble. Okay, that's from Jeremiah. Call upon me in the day of trouble. I will deliver you, and you shall glorify me. So let's just go back. Okay. Behold, I am against you, O Sidon. I will be glorified in your midst, and they shall know that I am Yahweh when I execute judgments. This is what's coming, guys. Judgments in her, and am hallowed in her. So he's going to strike Egypt, and in striking it, he will heal it. Okay, I don't know where I was because I got interrupted, but let me go back to here. Behold, I am against you, O Sidon. I will be glorified in your midst, and they shall know that I am Yahweh when I execute judgments in her and am hallowed in her. And this is the word kadosh, to be set apart or consecrated. And where is Yahusha going to be consecrated? On the holy hill of Zion. So this is really fascinating. Anyway, let's keep going. For I will send pestilence upon her and blood in her streets. The wounded shall be judged in her midst by the sword against her on every side. Then they shall know that I am Yahweh. And there shall no longer be a pricking briar or a painful thorn. For who? For the house of Israel, from among all who are around them. So notice we are talking about the house of Israel here, even though it's talking about a place called Sidon. Because I believe that Yahweh is using Sidon because Tyre and Sidon were sister cities. And Tyre is Great Britain, and Sidon is the United States, where the New Jerusalem is going to be established. And isn't this interesting where it says, and there shall no longer be a pricking briar or a painful thorn for the house of Israel. Let's look at that. So this makes Isaiah 7 make more sense. It shall happen in that day that wherever there could be 1,000 vines worth 1,000 shekels of silver. So this is how, these are words that he uses all the time to describe his people. Like Judah, his pleasant plant, right? And silver is often used to talk about his priests. They're described as silver and gold. But where there could be 1,000 vines worth 1,000 shekels of silver, it will be for briars and thorns. These are those briars and thorns. With arrows and bows, men will come there, because all the land will become briars and thorns. So this is his land, and these are his people, where there could be 1,000 vines, but instead there's nothing but briars and thorns. Okay, so this is where we get the definition of where these briars and thorns are. Okay, so in Isaiah chapter 5, my well-beloved has a vineyard on a very fruitful hill. This very fruitful hill is the United States. He dug it up and cleared out its stones and planted it with the choicest vine. Who is the choicest vine? The choicest vine is Yahusha. So these are Christians. He built a tower in its midst and also made a winepress in it. So he expected it to bring forth good grapes, but it brought forth wild grapes. Who's the winepress? Who is the winepress? Who treads the winepress alone? This is Yahushua Mashiach, Jesus Christ. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, please, between me and my vineyard. What more could have been done to my vineyard that I have not done in it? Why then, when I expected it to bring forth good grapes, did it bring forth wild grapes? I'm going to skip down to verse 6 in the interest of time. I will lay it waste, it shall not be pruned or dug. but there shall come up briars and thorns. I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain on it. For the vineyard of Yahweh Sabaoth is the house of Israel. And who's the house of Israel? The house of Israel are coming out of every nation, country, tongue, and people where they have been scattered. They are the followers of the Lamb, and they follow him everywhere he goes. And the men of Judah are his pleasant plant. He looked for justice, but behold oppression, for righteousness, but behold a cry for help. So these are the Christians that have become wicked. They are the briars and thorns. So if we go back over here to Isaiah 7, just to finish that up, it says, it shall happen in that day that wherever there could be 1,000 vines worth 1,000 shekels of silver, it will be for briars and thorns. With arrows and bows, men will come there, because all the land will become briars and thorns. Who are these men with arrows and bows that are going to come there? This is prophesied in the book of Genesis, all the way from the beginning, because our God tells us the end from the beginning. Here it is. And the blessing that was received that tells what these tribes will be doing in the latter days. In Genesis chapter 49, Joseph is a fruitful bough by a well. The well is Yahushua Mashiach. His branches run over the wall because they leave the original land grant. Okay? His branches run over the wall. The archers have bitterly grieved him, shot at him, and hated him. There it is. The archers have bitterly grieved him, shot at him, and hated him. This is what is going to befall Joseph in the last days. But his bow remained in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong. Why? By the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From there is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Because they were the ones who remained in strength, were the ones who put their trust wholly on the rock, on the stone of Israel, on the shepherd, Yahushua Mashiach. So, as we were in Isaiah 7, with arrows and bows, men will come there, because all the land will become briars and thorns. And to any hill which could be dug with the hoe, you will not go there for fear of briars and thorns. But it will become a range for what? Oxen. And what is the symbol of Joseph? An ox. It's even the symbol that's written in the heavens, an ox. And a place for what? Sheep to roam. Israel. Israel is going to inherit this place. And just like it said, it's now going to be a place for oxen and sheep. Okay, I'm back in Ezekiel 28 verse 24. And there shall no longer be a pricking briar or a painful thorn for the house of Israel. Okay, because that's who's going to inherit this land. From among all who are around them, who despise them. Then they shall know that I am Yahweh. Thus says Yahweh, when I have gathered the house of Israel from the peoples among whom they are scattered. Why is he talking about all of this after just talking about Sidon? Because Sidon is a code word, meaning the United States. This is for those who have the testimony of Yahushua Mashiach, and therefore have the spirit of prophecy and revelation, and can understand for whom these books have been unsealed. This is who this is for, that those who can see may have wisdom. When I have gathered the house of Israel from the peoples among whom they are scattered, and am hallowed where? In the sight of the Gentiles. Because where is Joseph? Joseph is among the Gentiles. Then they will dwell in where? Their own land, which I gave to who? My servant Jacob. This is the second land grant. This is what it talks about in that same blessing that we just read in Genesis. It says, by the God of your father who will help you, and the Almighty who will bless you with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lies beneath, blessings of the womb and the breast, here's where I wanted to get to, verse 26. The blessings of your father, this is Jacob that's giving the blessing. This is a blessing to Joseph. Joseph's father was Jacob. The blessings of Jacob have excelled or exceeded the blessings of my ancestors. So this is Jacob speaking. So the blessings of your father Jacob, he's talking about himself in third person, have exceeded the blessings of my ancestors. Who were my ancestors? Abraham and Isaac. They were given the land of Canaan as an inheritance. But Jacob's blessing exceeded that. Okay? Up to, this is a boundary mark for the new land grant, up to the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. And I think the everlasting hills may be, it just makes perfect sense to me that it may be the Rocky Mountains. I'm sorry. They shall be on the head of Joseph. These blessings, this additional land grant is going to be placed on the head of Joseph and on the crown of the head of him who was separate from his brothers. Now, this is so crazy. So let's just start again at the beginning of verse 25 and put all this into our heads. Thus says Yahweh, when I have gathered the house of Israel from the peoples among whom they are scattered, and am hallowed in them in the sight of the Gentiles. Who's the Gentiles? Joseph. Then they will dwell in their own land, which I gave to my servant Jacob. That's the reason why it just says Jacob there, because we're not talking about the original land grant. And they will dwell safely there, build houses and plant vineyards. Yes, they will dwell securely when I execute judgments on all those around them who despise them. Then they shall know that I am Yahweh, their Elohim. It is the same story throughout all of the scriptures. There is going to be a great judgment upon the land because it is full of thorns and briars. But God's people, those who truly love Yahushua Mashiach, Jesus Christ, those who truly love him and put their trust in him, will be saved out of this time of fury. And it is among them and scattered Israel who will be gathered, where Jesus Christ will be glorified. And they will all dwell safely in the land that they gave, that was given to the servant Jacob, which is the United States. So that's why it says in Zechariah chapter 12, verse 7, Yahweh will save the tents of Judah first. Why does it say Judah? Because we just read that Judah is the choice plant. Judah is his choice plant. Why is it called Judah? Because Yahushua, Jesus, is going to come now as the lion of Judah. These are the true Christians, those who truly put their trust in the Lion of Judah. The Lord will save the tents of Judah. The Christians, the true Christians. The Lion of Judah is coming. Will save the tents of Judah first, so that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall not become greater than that of Judah. So who is the house of David? Who is this talking about? This is talking about the true Jews that are unrepentant. The ones that Zechariah says later of them. Let's read what he says. I'm in Zechariah 14, and in that day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives. That is a very specific location, which faces Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall be split in two from east to west, making a very large valley. Half of the mountain shall move toward the north, and half of it toward the south. Then you shall flee through my mountain valley, for the mountain valley shall reach to Azal. Yes, you shall flee, as you fled from the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. Thus says Yahweh my Elohim will come. Thus Yahweh my Elohim will come, and all the saints with you, or with him. Going down to verse 9, and Yahweh shall be king over all the earth. In that day it shall be. Going on to verse 11, it says, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. And it explains all the land, going back to 10, shall be turned into a plain from Geba to Rimmon, south of Jerusalem. Jerusalem shall be raised up and inhabited in her place, from Benjamin's gate to the place of the first gate and the corner gate, and from the tower of Hananel to the king's wine presses. So this is what is going to happen for for the Jews, for that location over there, the original land grant. And as you notice, this is a very different narrative than the one that we've been exploring that is going to happen in the New Jerusalem. Okay, and let's finish up in Zechariah 12. And I will pour on the house of David. So this is the second group that he's going to save. First, he's going to save the tents of Judah, then the house of David. And on the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the spirit of grace and supplication. Then they will look on me whom they pierced. Yes, they will mourn for him as one mourns for his only son, and grieve for him as one grieves for a firstborn. Why are they going to grieve? Because they're going to realize that Yahushua Mashiach is their Messiah. So let's just finish up again with Ezekiel 28. Thus says Yahweh Elohim, when I have gathered the house of Israel from the peoples among whom they are scattered, and am hallowed in them in the sight of the Gentiles, then they will dwell in their own land, which I gave to my servant Jacob, and they will dwell safely there, build houses and plant vineyards. Yes, they will dwell securely, when I execute judgments on all those around them who despise them. Then they shall know that I am Yahweh their Elohim. So the important thing to keep in mind is that when we see all kinds of destruction and calamities happening all around us, we cannot fear. We must instead look up and know that our salvation is drawing nigh. That this is being done for us, removing the briars and thorns, so that we can dwell safely in the land that was given to Jacob and then bestowed upon Joseph. The New Jerusalem, the place where Israel, the northern kingdom, can dwell safely.